Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Mandatory Regulatory Compliance for Businesses in Ghana web series, which is organized by the UK Ghana Chamber of Commerce in collaboration with WTS Novus Fails. Today, we're going to understand the role of the Food and Drugs Board in promoting local and international trade. And we're very happy to have distinguished speakers to give us an insight as to the role of the FDA. The FDA is very central to our survival as a regulator. They regulate the food that we eat, they regulate the things that we consume, and therefore it's important that the role of FDA is understood in the product context so that businesses, so that we, the consumers, will be able to understand their role and how it impacts us. So we find this to be a very important discussion because if our foods that are being produced do not meet the standards of international requirement, it means that we cannot export and have foreign exchange that will impact our economic growth and development. And we, the citizens as well, if the food do not meet proper standards in terms of what comes in, it means that we may have our livelihood being shortened by virtue of that. So we are very happy to have a distinguished lady from the Food and Drugs Board in the person of Madam Rhoda, who's the head of communications and public education. She will also be joined by some of her colleagues to also share their insights in relation to their role at the Food and Drugs Board. We also have someone coming from the business sector to also share an insight into it. So I'll start off with the background of Madam Rhoda Appiah. She's Madam Irabina Appiah. She has over 20 years experience in fields of corporate and development communications. She provides strategic and comprehensive health communication and manages communication for key initiatives for the FDA Food and Drugs Board. She's been awarded Brand Communication Personality of 2023 for public sector. Within a year, she was appointed as head of communications, having joined the organization. And so we are very happy to have Madam Rhoda on the call. Madam Rhoda, this is a session that we're going to have an interaction with the members of the chambers and the public at large. So we expect you to feel free, share your insight as well. Anyway, I, as the moderator, my name is Theophilus Teria. I am the managing partner for WTS Novus Fails. I'm also a law lecturer at UPSA Law School, where I teach law. In terms of tax law, I teach insurance law, I teach business law, and financial regulation. So we've had this series of sessions for almost 3 years now, and today we're happy to host you on the panel. So Madam Rhoda, you have the floor.
So good afternoon to you, and thank you, Mr. Teria, for the kind introduction. We'll go straight ahead to my presentation this afternoon. It is a great opportunity to interact in this fashion with members from the business sector. My presentation is going to be a very brief one, and then it will be followed by presentations from two of my colleagues. Esther Abajoa Amufa and Mr. Daniel Boafo will come in with their presentations as well. My brief presentation will be to introduce members this afternoon to the Food and Drugs Authority and who we are. We'll be looking at our strategic focus, our general operations, to a large extent, the levels of accreditations that we have, and some of the initiatives that we have rolling out presently. The rest of the other presentations will zoom into one of the initiatives, which is called the Buy Ghana, Love Ghana, which is tied to the progressive licensing scheme of the authority to support small and medium businesses. And then we'll look at the key requirements for registration, acquiring a license for your facility, and all other things that we expect private sector or small businesses to be able to do to meet us midway to come into full compliance. So the Food and Drugs Authority is about 28 years old as an institution. We began as the Food and Drugs Board, which many people know us to be, but our name has changed since 2012. We were originally established by the PNDC Law 305B. And later on, when the Public Health Act was put together, the Food and Drugs Law was incorporated. So we got integrated into the broader Public Health Act 851 in 2012. As an authority, you find our key mandates in parts 6, 7, 8, and 9 of the Public Health Act. Our strategic focus, so it's our dream and our expectations to become a center of excellence that is focused on protecting the health and safety of the people of Ghana and beyond, as far as their consumption of food and medical products are concerned. On a day-to-day basis, FDA exists to ensure the safety, quality, and efficacy of human and veterinary medicines, food, biological products, cosmetics, medical devices, household and chemical substances, and conducts or regulates clinical trials and their conduct in the country. We are also mandated to ensure the control of tobacco products and the enforcement of the standards that border around that. You may want to find out, or people may be wondering how we are funded. We are a government body, and therefore we draw our finances from subventions from government. And we also supplement our expenses with some internally generated funds, which we get from fees that we charge for our regulatory services, as in product registration, licensing of facilities, and others. We also impose administrative fines, which are legislated for us, and in as long as some people may choose to be non-compliant, we are able to slap these administrative charges, which are supposed to also serve as punitive measures to get them into full compliance. We have a percentage of FOBs for imported products that are brought in. Some of our key activities as regulators include the registration of FDA-regulated products. So just as our name implies, we are responsible for allopathic medicines, herbal medicines, food, medical devices, household chemicals, cosmetics, tobacco products, blood and blood products, vaccines, just to name a few. And so the registration of these products are done by us. The licensing of the manufacturing, storage, or distribution facilities of these products are also within our mandate. The FDA also conducts market surveillance. So having registered products for our clients, we do not leave it there. We conduct day-to-day market surveillance of these products and how they are faring on the market, and do close monitoring of the clinical trials that we approve of as well. Safety monitoring goes on a day-to-day basis. Industrial support we give to local manufacturers, as well as even external ones, when we conduct our international GMP, the Good Manufacturing Practice inspections annually. We enforce our standards, we regulate advertisements, and so on and so forth. We are present in 12 regions across the country. We do not have district offices yet, but we are very much close to our clients by way of social media, telephones, emails, and others. This is how our organization is organized on a very broad scale. So we fall under the Ministry of Health. We have our governing board and the chief executive, and she's supported by the deputy chief executives for health products and technologies, the Deputy Chief Executive for Food, Technical Operations, and Corporate Services. And then we have two centers, the Center for Laboratory Services and Research, as well as the Center for Import and Export Control. So the Center for Laboratory Services and Research. We presently have 6 testing laboratories and a quality assurance office. So the 6 are made up of the drug and food physiochemical laboratories. We have the pharmaceutical microbiology lab. We have the food microbiology. We have labs for our cosmetics and household chemicals, as well as medical devices. The Center for Import and Exports has been set up mainly to ensure that we facilitate effective import and exportation of our regulated products. So we are present in at the airports here in Accra, and then the 2 seaports also has our presence. Then we also man 12 border posts on our landed borders, and our jobs in these places are principally to issue permits for imports and exports, inspections and clearance of imported products. The imports, we conduct import data analysis, sampling and testing, inspections of cargoes that are going in and going out and coming in. And the inspections of these and of bonded warehouses are also within our ambits, in as long as they are stocking our regulated products. We are an ISO accredited institution, and we very much pride ourselves with it. As in our administrative, our operational and quality control activities are all governed by international standards. I mean the ISO 9001, the 2015 version, since 2017. And our operations largely in the Accra office, Volta region and Ashanti regions are in full conformance with requirements. We have our own quality assurance functions, which are governed by 17,025 standards. And our laboratory is also approved and a WHO pre-qualified laboratory. We just also want to indicate that we have the largest scope of accreditation for testing under one roof, the largest in Africa, as far as our work is concerned. FDA has been designated as an Elder NEPAD Center of Excellence, and so for our work, we also pay attention to regulatory activities that are going on in the sub-region. We provide support in terms of clinical trials, medicine evaluation, registration, and medicine safety activities. We have our own 30-day fellowship courses that we run in clinical trials, GCP inspections, and other safety monitoring activities. Almost every now and then there are teams that are coming in to conduct benchmarking visits for us to be able to share our experiences with them. As a result of our work over the years, we are in close collaborations with a number of international bodies. We are members of the African Medicines Regulatory, African Vaccine Regulatory Forum, the AVRF. We are a non-EU member of the European Medicines Agency, and we provide support for the Good Clinical Practice Inspectors Working Group. We are a lead coordinating country for West Africa Medicines Regulatory Harmonization Project. We work with Paul Ehrlich Institute in the Nordic and several other bodies that are listed on my slides. Our initiatives, so quite a number of initiatives are being done by the FDA. We have the Take Back Unwanted Medicines, which is supposed to close the loop as in the full product life cycle of medicines. Perhaps another time we'll share more details on this initiative with you. We have the Progressive Licensing Scheme, which aims to support small business units to improve on the safety, quality, and wholesomeness of their products. And that scheme is very much tied in to a project we call Buy Ghana, Love Ghana. And our quest is to be able to see these products that we are approved of here in the country, in the FDA, move and do well even on our A-rated supermarkets and beyond the borders of Ghana. We have an AI project that we have just commenced to be able to apply some more technology in our registration processes, so things will be done in a more efficient way. We have lately introduced an IREMS, an integrated regulatory management information system, which is presently in place. And the joy of this project brings along is the ability for those who register their products to be able to actually track and know the status of their registration processes as it goes through the cycle. It's just a matter of time. We want to introduce a project we call the FDA and the GSA harmonization, so that it will provide a one-stop registration process for every business. You do not need to come to FDA, finish with the processes, and then go and start another one with the GSA. So that is also in the loop, and it's a matter of time. We will be glad to share how the operations of these projects would be rolled out. At this point, I would want to say that for those of you who do not follow us on any of our social media pages, you could do so. We are even now on Trends as well. It's a vibrant network of people that we interact with on a daily basis, and we would love to have you with us. Thank you. I'll switch at this point to Esther, who would present on the Love Ghana, Buy Ghana project, which I'm sure our audience will be very much interested in. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I trust you can all hear me. So my name is Esther Amufa. I'm with the FDA, specifically in the Communications and Public Education Department. I'm here to give you an overview of some of our initiatives that may interest you as small scale, micro, small and medium enterprises in Ghana. So in Ghana, we've realized that the country's private sector currently consists of manufacturing. It's very heavy on manufacturing, services, and agricultural industries, and more than 85% of these are micro, small, and medium enterprises, which contributes to about 70% of our GDP. And because of this, the FDA has implemented targeted initiatives to help formalize, empower, and promote these enterprises. Currently, we are very specific to the food and cosmetics manufacturing industries. And so one of such initiatives is the Progressive Licensing Scheme, which is a regulatory framework to support micro, or what we call cottage and small scale enterprises in the food, cosmetics, and household chemical industries by providing support to meet their regulatory requirements with ease and convenience without compromising on quality and safety standards. And so why the PLS, the Progressive Licensing Scheme, came up was the FDA wanted to do something to help these small scale industries to overcome the challenges that always comes up in product registration. We also wanted to provide gradual regulatory compliance and ensure that there is overall public health, product safety, and traceability in the country. And so businesses with 1 to 5 people in their production staff who are directly involved in the production of their products are eligible for this Progressive Licensing Scheme. And this scheme operates in a 3-stage system. So when you come into it, we have the initial compliance stage, which is the pink level. We have the yellow stage, which is the intermediate compliance, and then the green stage, which is full regulatory compliance. So the key components of this scheme is that we are helping small businesses to improve their operations step by step, which each level that I've mentioned, the pink, yellow, and green, reflecting greater adherence to safety and quality standards. And so another thing is that at the first stage, businesses are granted an initial license that allows them to legally operate under minimal regulatory requirements. Another aspect of this scheme is that it includes guidance on good manufacturing practices, quality control, packaging, labeling, and product testing. Businesses under this scheme are also regularly monitored and mentored by the FDA. And once a business has successfully met all the requirements laid out for each stage of the scheme, it graduates into fully being compliant. So our aim is that every business will get to full compliance, but we do it gradually. And the scheme also encourages businesses to upgrade their facilities and processes over time. And so the financial and logistical burdens are being spread out to be able to help them not feel it so much. We now come to the Buy Ghana, Love Ghana campaign. This campaign was launched in 2020 as part of the implementation of the progressive licensing scheme. And as the initial activity of this campaign, the FDA encouraged some A-rated supermarkets and malls to allocate special stands for the promotion of made in Ghana products. The objective of this campaign is to increase the awareness of the progressive licensing scheme and encourage the registration of made in Ghana products. Another objective is to increase the number of locally made products in supermarkets and malls, and to encourage consumers to patronize locally made products in a bid to support our local industry. Some of the specific activities the FDA has done to support MSMEs is, the first of them is that as part of the PLS, the FDA provides technical support and training to help businesses understand and comply with regulatory requirements. And so, like I said, this support includes guidance on good manufacturing practices, quality control, packaging, labeling, and product testing. We have had several of these. These are some of the pictures you're seeing here. Another thing is what my HOD mentioned, the regulatory harmonization in collaboration with the Ghana Standards Authority, which is to streamline certification processes, reduce costs and time for MSMEs. Another thing the FDA has done is to encourage supermarkets to organize month-long special made in Ghana sales, for instance, during festive occasions, in an intent to increase patronage and sales in made in Ghana products. So the picture here is from Palace Mall, which they did over the Christmas season last year. The FDA also provides funding and airs promotional videos to raise awareness of the Buy Ghana, Love Ghana campaign. It also does promotional activities at fairs and exhibitions across the country. So the impacts that the FDA has had through these initiatives. From 2019 till date, the FDA has licensed over 2,300 facilities and has registered over 10,500 products under the PLS initiative. So as these businesses have progressed through the stages of the PLS, the quality and safety of the products they produce have also greatly improved. The PLS initiative has also significantly improved market access for MSMEs, enabling them not only to thrive locally, but also to expand into international markets. And through the capacity building and regulatory support the FDA gives to these MSMEs, they are now better equipped to meet international standards, which has enhanced their readiness to trade under the AFTA. The FDA has also actively promoted the PLS initiative and made in Ghana products at key platforms such as manufacturers associations, like we are doing right now. We've done some national fairs and international fairs as well, and some MSME focused events such as the UNDP MSMEs New Day series. We have been part of that program, and we have also been part of the GIZ Annual Regional Network Conference for Enterprise Development and Employment Promotion. All these efforts have increased visibility enhance stakeholder engagement and support for local enterprise development. All these initiatives have not been without challenges. So some of them is that some local manufacturers are just unable to meet the demand of the supermarkets. And so when you go to some of the supermarkets, they complain that they don't get the stock from the manufacturers to be able to stock up the stands they have allocated to them. Many local products also lack barcodes, which hinders their acceptance into retail outlets. Some on the supermarket side, some supermarkets have also been resistant to providing dedicated stands for made in Ghana products. And we've also seen that there's insufficient data on the proportion of made in Ghana products versus imported brands across the country. And largely, there's lack of funding to promote this campaign. So in conclusion, the FDA is dedicated to supporting MSMEs and promoting made in Ghana products. And it also aims to contribute to the growth of the national economy through enhanced local and international trade. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Esther, and thank you very much, Mrs. Appiah, for the opportunity. My name is Daniel Boafo from the Client Service Unit of the Communications and Public Education Department, and I'll be talking more about the requirements for registering all regulated products. So I'll talk briefly about the mandate which Mrs. Appiah has mentioned. We'll talk about food product registration requirements, facility licensing requirements. We have site verifications as well, which I'll talk about, requirements for food service establishments, then also requirements for drugs, veterinary and herbal medicines registration, cosmetics, household chemicals, and medical devices, as well as facility licensing and import permit requirements. Then I'll also touch on advertisement requirements in my presentation. So for our core mandate, Mrs. Appiah has mentioned that we register food, drugs, food supplements, herbal products, homeopathic medicines, veterinary products, household chemicals, cosmetics, and then tobacco products, as well as blood and blood products. And then we also conduct clinical trials. And then in ensuring all these things are done, we do them through the registration, which Mrs. Appiah mentioned, inspections, market surveillances, intelligence activities, advertisement monitoring, and then testing of products. So when we come to the requirements, we know that for every product to be produced, it has to be produced in a facility, and that facility has to be licensed by the FDA. So for food products, we have a manufacturing facility licensing requirement. And as part of the requirement, a producer is supposed to present to the FDA a cover letter, completed application forms, which is available on our website or can be purchased from any of our offices nationwide. Then they add a copy of their business registration certificate, as well as the health certificates of the food handlers or those who come directly in contact with the products during production, and then also the layout of the facility. They submit this document to any of our offices and then come along with the corresponding application fees. And the application has been segmented according to the GEA's categorization for businesses. So we have the cottage industry, the small scale industry, medium, and then the large scale industries. So for cottage industries, they're required to pay an amount of 100 cedis for the licensing of their manufacturing facilities, which is valid for 1 year. For small scale industries, 200 cedis, medium scale industries, 300 cedis, and then large scale industries are required to pay 700 Ghana cedis for the licensing of their manufacturing facilities. So for imported products as well, because they are not the manufacturers, they are expected to get warehouses, and these warehouses also has to be licensed by the FDA. And that's also they are required to submit some documentation to us and an application fee. So the documents include a cover letter, application form, the copy of the business registration certificate, and then the layout of the facility. Then also the application fees are 240 cedis for a small scale facility, 500 cedis for a medium scale facility, and then the large scale facilities will pay 800 cedis for the licensing of the storage facility, whether it's a cold or a dry storage facility. And it's also valid for 1 year. Now, for imported products, we realize that some of the products are considered as high-risk products. So as a matter of fact, officers from the FDA would have to visit the various facilities where production is being done and then aid in their inspections to ensure that everything they are doing over there corresponds to regulatory standards. So we have site verification for these particular products. So product like canned tomato paste, canned fish, canned meat, and then also infant formulas attract these site verification fees. So when you are importing any of these products I've mentioned, and then they are coming from outside of Africa, the applicant or the client will be required to pay an amount of 10,500 Ghana cedis. And then when they're importing it from Africa, they're required to pay 8,000 Ghana cedis. And then if they are from West Africa, and then all other products from Nigeria are required to pay a site verification fee of 4,000 US dollars. And please, facility licensing are prerequisites to product registration. So what it simply means is that if you haven't licensed your facility, the product registration is impossible. So we urge all our applicants to license their facility before they proceed with the product registration, or they can submit both applications simultaneously, so that whilst we work on the product registration, we can also work on your facility licensing. Going forward, we'll talk about the requirements for prepackaged food products registration, both imported and locally manufactured. So before you are able to sell your product on the Ghanaian market, you're expected to register the product with FDA. And in registering, you need to submit a cover letter to us, completed application form, a copy of your business registration certificate, and then the certificate of analysis, that's the lab results of all the products you want to register, as well as samples of the products. And we have a sample schedule for that, which is available on our website. And then also, you are also required to submit model labels for the product. And then in addition to all these ones, you are also required to pay the registration fees for locally manufactured foods, cottage industries, as we mentioned earlier, according to the classifications by GEA. Cottage industries are required to pay 300 cedis. Small scale industries are required to pay 600 cedis. Medium scale industries pay 900, and then the large scale industries pay 1,500 Ghana cedis. And this registration period is for 3 years. Then also for imported food products, applicants are required to pay 750 Ghana cedis if they are registering per product, if they are registering products between 1 and 30. And then if the product gets more, let's say between 31 and 500 products, they are required to pay 600 cedis per product. Then between 500 on 1 and 1,000 products, they pay 450 cedis per product. And then if they are registering products that are more than 1,000 products at a go, they pay 300 Ghana cedis. So as part of our services, we offer premium services for food products registration. And then these premium services have some exemptions. So high-risk products such as frozen meats and fish, infant formulas, canned fish, canned meats, canned tomatoes, egg and egg products are exempted. They are not considered as product that can be applied for within the premium services. And then also product that require site verification, like I mentioned earlier on in my submission for the facility licensing. And then also product that are brought in for bulk registrations do not qualify for these premium services. And then the premium services has timelines. So if someone brings in an application, a new application for registration, and then they require our premium services, it takes 15 working days. And then for renewal application, it takes 10 working days. For responses or request application, they take 5 working days for us to complete and then get back to the client. And then all these applications attract a 3-time registration fee for the regular charge. So let's assume you have brought rice as a cottage industry and you were required to pay 300 cedis for the regular registration process. If you want an expedited or a premium service, you'll be required to pay 900 cedis. That's 3 times the registration fee for the premium service. Then also we regulate food service establishments like restaurants, hotels, catering services, and then canteens. And these institutions are required to get a food hygiene permit from the FDA. And in doing that, they'll have to submit a cover letter, completed application forms, a copy of their business registration certificate, and then also the health certificate or the food handler certificate of the cooks and waiters to us, as well as the corresponding registration fee, 120 cedis for small scale industries 240 cedis for medium scale industries, and then 600 cedis for large scale industries. Then we will talk about the registration requirements for drug facilities. So drug facilities, whether they are manufacturing facilities or storage facilities, they are required to also submit an application to us for the licensing of their facilities. And the document they are supposed to submit includes a cover letter, a copy of the application form, that's completed application forms, and a copy of their business registration certificate. And then we have the charges outlined over there. That's cottage industry for locally produced medicines. They pay an amount of 200 Ghana cedis per year. Small scale industries, 300 cedis, medium 400, and then large scale facilities, 500 cedis per year. And then when it comes to the pharmaceutical manufacturing facilities, they pay 1,000 Ghana cedis per year. And then the large scale pharmaceutical manufacturers, pay an amount of 3,000 Ghana cedis. And then also for storage facilities, for cottage industry, they pay 120 cedis per year. Small scale industries, 240 cedis. Medium scale industries pay 500 cedis, and then large scale industries pay 800 Ghana cedis. Then also the same requirement for medical devices and cosmetics manufacturing facilities as well. So they also submit a cover letter, application forms, and a copy of their business registration certificate. And then also they have the charges outlined over there. Then we have site verification also for pharmaceutical products and then medical devices, because they are not being produced here in Ghana. It is expected of us to visit the facilities and ensure that all the processes they are going through are okay for us and they are meeting the standards. So if you are importing drugs or medical devices outside of Africa, you'll be required to pay a site verification fee of 10,500 Ghana cedis, similar to that of food, but this is required for all drugs and medical devices. And then when you're importing from Africa, it's 8,000 Ghana US dollars, and then from West Africa is 6,000 US dollars. Then for importers of other products other than food, they are required to get an import permit. And the import permit is free. The FDA doesn't charge for an import permit, but then you have to submit a cover letter and then completed application form to the authority to indicate that you want to import these particular types of products. Then the authority will grant you that permit. And these are the registration requirements also for drug-related products. For allopathic or pharmaceutical medicines, you are supposed to submit a cover letter and then the completed dossier on 2 CDs, as well as samples as per our sample schedule, and then also the registration fee. That is 1,200 cedis for imported drug, and then $1,800 for a new chemical, and then 300 US dollars for an orphan drug. And this registration period spans for 5 years. Other than that, the food application that spans for 3 years. This is for 5 years. And then for locally manufactured drugs, they're expected to pay 5,000 Ghana cedis. And then for veterinary drugs, they're expected to pay an amount of $600 for their registration. When it comes to the herbal product also, they're expected to submit a cover letter, completed application form, certificate of analysis, stability study reports for imported products, and then as well as fee sale certificates for imported products, and then samples. For the fees involved, imported herbal medicines, they're required to pay $1,200, and then local medicines are supposed to pay 500 Ghana cedis, which is valid for 5 years as well. And then same applies to food supplements. They are supposed to submit a cover letter, completed application form, certificate of analysis, stability study report, and a free sale certificate, as well as samples. And then the fees are $600 for imported supplements, 500 Ghana cedis for locally manufactured supplements, and then $600 for veterinaries. Then for biological products like vaccines and blood products also, they are required to register them with the FDA. So they submit a cover letter, completed dossier of the product, as well as samples of the product, and then the corresponding registration fee, which is $1,800 for imported biological products, and then 2,500 Ghana cedis for locally manufactured biological products. Then we move to cosmetics and household chemicals. So anybody importing or manufacturing a cosmetic and household chemical are also required to register the product with the FDA. And as such, they are supposed to submit a cover letter addressed to the CEO and then a completed application form. Then also they will be required to add a copy of the certificate of analysis of the product, the free sale certificate, the manufacturing facility license. And the free sale certificate and the manufacturing facility license are for the imported products. And then they attach a copy of their business registration certificate as well as samples of the product. Then the corresponding registration fees for local, we have 300 cedis for the cottage industry, 600 cedis for the small scale industry, medium scale industry, 900 cedis, and then large scale industries, 1,500 cedis. And the registration period is 3 years as compared to that of food product registration. For imported products, also similar to food products registration, when you're importing between 1 and 30 products at a go, you'll be required to pay $177 per product. If you are importing between 31 and 500 products at a go, you pay $111 per product. And then between 501 and 1,000 products, you pay $72 per product. And then if you are importing 1,000 products and above, then you're required to pay $21 per product. Then we'll also talk about advertisements. So the FDA approves adverts for its regulated products. And then to submit the advertisements to FDA for us to approve, the applicant is supposed to submit a cover letter, completed application forms, then the advert script, if it is a radio or TV advert, and then the artwork for billboards, and then the storyboard for whether it's a TV or a radio advert. Then also they have to prove to the FDA that the product they want to advertise is registered. So as such, they will add a copy of their product registration certificate and then the application fee. So for the advertisement, FDA offers both regular and express services. For the regular service, it takes a month for approval, and then the fee is 800 cedis. And then for expedited service, that's 2,000 cedis, and it takes 5 working days for us to approve the script for you to be able to air it on the various medias. So this is, by way of saying, this is the requirements we have for Food and Drugs Authorities application requirements or applications. Thank you very much. Over to you, Mrs. Apia.
Thank you, Daniel. Over to you, Mr. Terrier. You may take
All
it
right,
from
thank you
here.
very much, Madam Apia, Daniel Boafo, and Esther
Esther.
Mufa for your insightful conversation. I think you've taken all the questions off my mouth, but I still have to do my work anyway. So we have Nathaniel, who is, so Nathaniel, please let's have a comment from you, then we'll get into the question, please. So I'll start off with any of you. It can be Rhoda, it can be Esther, it can be Daniel. You could speak to it. So I'm going to ask a couple of questions. I'll start off with your mandate. Do you have a mandate to regulate? What's a statutory mandate? How do you align this with the expectations of the local business industry and also international standards? How do you align those two aspirations?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Terrier. So, per what we said, we are actually focused on ensuring effective public health and safety. So we do that through processes that we've indicated to you by ensuring that the products that we approve of good quality, they are efficacious, they are safe for use. But over the years, we have realized that we cannot just focus on these parameters because we are health inclined, because ultimately these our clients are businesses. So we are trying very much to align ourselves into roles that will facilitate effective trade. And that's how come we have come up with some of the initiatives we shared with you. And our operations are also timed so that they do not lose time and opportunities for businesses because they get caught up in regulatory compliance issues. So we do all that, including even getting our accreditation in place to work within the ISO certification and quality arrangement in a way that will position us to be attractive to the business people. It pains us when we see people seated at our offices waiting on one thing or the other, because we respect their time. We know getting them here for even 3 hours is money. So that's how we have positioned ourselves, and all our initiatives and our thinking is into how we can facilitate work and businesses. Yes, we are in the Ministry of Health. We are very much interested in health. So sometimes when people bring in their products for registration, much as we want to work with speed, we are also conscious of the fact that it's about the health of people. It's about the safety and quality of what is being churned out. So we are always playing that balance, working within time, being efficient, and at the same time effective, making sure that what comes out there is good. So it has been a balancing act, as it were, and opportunities like this get us close to businesses to know really what is in their hearts and what their expectations are for us. But generally, this is what we think they expect of us. Over.
Okay, all right, thank you. I like that aspect that you want to ensure that we can promote trade. So promoting trade means that we also have to be speedy on a number of things, speedy in terms of approvals. And I have dealt with you, and I see FDA is one of the very responsive government agencies. But I haven't. I haven't had any negative experience yet. Based on my dealings with you, but we need to. Get the feedback of the people that predominantly deals with you. So in terms of, a very key aspect of your role is public safety.
Yeah.
And that's very fundamental. Okay. And at the heart of this would also be consumer protection as well. So how do you balance that so that we are not worse off as a country in terms of trade and stuff like that?
Yeah. So through our registration and facility licensing activities, we on a daily basis are ensuring the quality and safety of things. But we have a very strong communications aspect to our work, such that if anything comes to our attention, we are on WhatsApp, we are on Facebook, everywhere, picking feedbacks every now and then. When there are issues, we come up with product alerts. We have our product recalls regime, which we put in place if products need to be recalled immediately. In fact, some of the requirements that we have sometimes look a bit overbearing for our clients, but we do not seek to put in burdens at all. For instance, when we ask that you put in there a batch number in in developing your labels, because you have labeling guidelines. We do that because when we are recalling, we are not recalling all your things. We want to be able to zoom down on the very batch that has been defective or have been found to have defects. So some of the requirements, I'm just using the batch numbers as an example to talk about the essence of it and just how it makes us much more efficient in our operations. So we have our product recalls, we have our press releases. I think we are one of the institutions that churns out releases every now and then, not because we are just we just want to bother people, but to keep them in communication, to keep them abreast with trends and issues that are going on with our product. And compliance is very crucial to us. So there are times that if you are not sticking to the rules, you are not sticking to the guidance that we give to you, then the other side of we coming after you, seizing the items, placing embargoes on your product at the port, and others come in. So we just operate like a double-edged sword, as it were. We are seen to be churning out information, public education and all, but we have that strong arm, which we also use to ensure that compliance is there, because really it's about human lives and the safety of our consumers. So we balance the act once again, not just within trade and health, but also in terms of our communication and also the strong enforcement, which we do. To the extent that we even have police officers that are seconded to us, and we work with to ensure that investigations, if we say something is happening in this warehouse, we know it because we conduct intelligence. And so when we are coming for you, we know exactly what we are looking out for. So that's how we operate. Thank you.
That really sounds comforting. Thanks for that. One of the slides dealt with regulatory harmonization.
Mm.
And it's one of the very key things that has been coming up. How do you collaborate with other agencies so that we can have like a one-stop shop for trade and stuff like that? So from your end, how do you do that? Because I know at the port, for example, FDA comes into play. Sometimes have Minerals Commission. You also have Ghana Standards Board at the port and stuff like that. So how do you collaborate with other government agencies to ensure that these regulatory considerations are met?
Yeah, sure. So collaboration is actually a key aspect of what we do. We cannot be everywhere. So we definitely, as I said, we do Int'l, and so we depend on our intelligence bodies and all. Now, talking about the various ports of entries and exits, they are principally manned by the Harbours Authority, and then we have the GRA conducting its own customs and other clearance activities. So for us to be able to do our work, we need a close collaboration with them, because we don't just, when we issue the import permits, we need to get on the ICOMS, the system that they have in place for it to be able to admit our permits. Again, when the items are coming in, we work together with them to track. And then we use our own risk profiling to be able to settle on those that we need to conduct thorough inspections and those that we're able to do the other forms of monitoring. So we are in these places to be able to collaborate with the bodies there, or those who are principally doing their jobs there, but also to ensure that nothing with respect to food, health, products are compromised in any way. So we in the pursuit of getting taxes, because you're a tax man, we cannot just allow customs to get everything out there for us to get a cut or whatever, but we need to make sure that that which is being taxed is safe and wholesome. So that's how we do our work. Again, we work with the media, we work with civil society, we work with consumer associations. Our work just spans that wide. But again, I talked about our harmonization, which you also touched on. Now, it's actually something that is still being incubated for us to be able to get GSA, FDA regulations to speak to each other properly. Fortunately or unfortunately, we find ourselves in two different ministries. So, you know, with Ghana's public administrative things, it's not easy to just run into another ministry like that. Much as we represent or report to the Ministry of Health, GSA is reporting to the Minister of Trade. So and we have two different laws which sets us up. So it's just a gentle way of bringing these two bodies. Some things will need to be given away to be able to get some of these things. But our quest is to make sure that you don't come to FDA queue and get your registration, go and start another queue, because if you're able to do things very well, then you realize that some of the tests that we even conduct, they are the same parameters. If we are checking aflatoxins in your cereals, it's the same thing that they will be testing at GSA. So then they can be able to take that done, and then proceed to the other requirements that may not have been taken care of by FDA. We have started the pilot. I think we did that with a few businesses. I remember one farm's agro business that started it, and we are now paying attention to the timelines that were committed to that pilot activity, and it's a matter of time. We hope to roll it out and see how our businesses will profit from this.
So does it mean that if you make an application for, let's say you're bringing a product from outside the country, you make an application for FDA, you have to separately at this stage do that for probably Minerals Commission, do that for probably Ghana Standards Board, and go through all the various applications at the port. So
Well, in as long as it's food. Okay, so in as long as it has to do with our regulatory work, then we are talking about just food, drugs, and cosmetics, and which you need to get approval from FDA. But for you to trade in it, so our approvals are essentially for health and safety, to give you that comfort as a consumer that this is healthy, this is safe. You go to GSA because they will need to approve it for trade. And that is how these agencies have been set up. But because it takes time to go through one before you continue with the other, that's where the harmonization will take place. So we'll be looking at your document, but two institutions are looking at same application with different perspectives. And we just hope it works well. With the pilot that we ran, it was quite interesting. It was a number of agri products that the fellow was going through. And we are looking at it broadly, all the way to even when you have to export the product. So it's a bit interesting, and let's see how things trade off on
it'll be really good if we're able to harmonize like the platforms. So that by applying to FDA, other agencies can also look at the same documents, probably issue a provisional permit or something, while they later on do the fiscal. I think it would more progressive.
Yes,
if we do that.
Yeah.
I know you're doing an excellent work, but I think that's something that we need to also elevate the conversation to, so that we'll give more progressive to more investment in the country. Okay, exactly. So thanks for that. So that's by way of feedback. We should run a pilot on harmonizing the platforms. All is aimed towards the regulation of it.
Sure. Okay.
All right. So I'll go on to there are questions in the chat box.
Okay.
I'll go ahead with it. I'll ask. There are some questions there.
Okay.
But before I do, let me ask some questions from my side before I come to that. So let's look at what are the fundamental compliance requirements for companies that are seeking to import or export FDA regulated product. I think Daniel talked about it, but practically, how do we go about it?
Okay, I think I've been speaking for some time. I'll let Daniel come in to talk about the requirements shortly. So Daniel, please do that.
I think in my presentation, I made mention of the basic requirements that are needed to get your product registered at FDA. And the basic or the fundamental document that are needed is that the applicant has to get a local representation. That is, they have to be registered by the Office of the Registrar of Companies. That's the most basic thing we need. And then also in applying for your product registration, because it is a product you are registering, we will need some documentation from the manufacturer, like the analysis test we mentioned about, and then also the samples of the product, which has to be evaluated and then reanalyzed for confirmations and all those things before we can go ahead and do the registration. So basically, the local representation and then the analysis as well as the samples are basic documents that are needed. Thank you. Over.
Thank you, Daniel. Let me check the chat box. So someone asked about how does the FDA measure impacts the key sustainability and development goals, 3, 8, 9, 17. Is this something that you want to talk about? Your measures, please, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. The SDG, that number, what exactly does?
Honestly, I can't.
I will have to refer also.
I may have to check. Let's skip that. I would come back to.
All right.
Someone wants to know what's the way. I think I've asked that already about the harmonization to make us competitive. That has been addressed. I think FDA's customer service needs to be improved, to be enhanced. Sometimes frustrating dealing with the various officers because communication is bad and can be disrespectful. That's by way of feedback. The question about FDA's approach to its 30th anniversary in the next 2 years. What one transformative innovation involving artificial intelligence does the FDA foresee to introduce to improve the local and international trade ambitions?
Okay, so people are already looking forward to our 30th anniversary, and it's exciting to know. I think one thing we failed to talk about were some of the bottlenecks we have when we are going through our registration processes. We have what we call the stop clock timing with our service charter. And we have had quite a number of situations where clients are not able to oblige to our requests or our requirements. They come halfway, and when we ask for further and better materials or particulars to be given to us to complete the requirement processes, they go and do not come back in time. There are a few times too that they send their representatives or sometimes even dispatch riders to deliver their things for them. And so it is the dispatch riders that we have their contacts. And when we want to follow through with them, we struggle. So that has been the hassle for some time now, except that now we have introduced a VISTA registration or VISTA management system, which we also use to build our own internal database to engage further with our clients. And perhaps for the questioner or the person who gave that submission about our processes, it gets a bit tiring for us because sometimes we have information to give out to this business to be able to come back to us, and we just are not able to get into them because they don't give us the right contact details. A few times we've had to use many other different ways to get across to them, so that becomes a challenge. As for maybe some rude behavior of a client executive or something, I will want to say maybe apologies if you are the very one who went through that, but it couldn't have been our intent. We have our helplines, and if you can call and put in your request instead of coming all the way, because sometimes I think when you need to come all the way, it gets a bit painful and challenging, and we've had times where sometimes clients are not too happy when they make a trip all the way here to be told something that they could have, a business that they could have quickly transacted with us on phone. So we are sorry if anybody went through that, but that is definitely not our intention. We are working towards getting a client management system now, such that we'll be able to get spot on complaints that will need to be addressed there and then to forestall any challenge.
Madam Rhoda, your website has a complaint tab. Is it unanimous when it is sent, or how safe is it?
Okay, so you mean the complaints?
Yes.
Yeah. So that is a portal that we want clients to be able to send in. The anonymity bits, I don't know, because your email will still have to show for us to be able to get back to you. So we will not be, I'm not too sure, unless you put it in a fashion where it's in a comment. You know, the AI on the website, the Nanajua, it's also a place where a comment can be placed, and maybe you can maintain some animosity. But if you should use the regular complaints, you have to disclose your identity. And we also pick that same content for our right to information, and people who come to that will also have to have a face, unless you are a whistleblower. If you want to be a whistleblower, we have an avenue, and there's a way you go about that to maintain your identity. And for that, I mentioned that we do a lot of intelligence. So there's a way we take information from informants, and we have a reward system. If your information really yields.
All right, thank you very much. There's a question about what you're doing about the amount of sugar on the market and how a lot of them, a lot of these drinks and the youth are consuming them, and there are a lot of health implication for because of the sugar content and stuff like that. You would find in other countries calories. This is the number of calories. This is the sugar. I don't know whether we're moving towards that culture.
Okay, so I think about a month ago, we held a stakeholder meeting with advertisers when we wanted them to know of our revised guidelines for advertisements. And these issues have been sufficiently dealt with in our new guidelines for advertisements. We realized that there seemed not to be a control mechanism for who we advertise some of these products to. So we presently, in the new guidelines, have an age limit that an advertiser cannot advertise certain things to a certain target group. For instance, sugar sweetened beverages cannot be advertised to or targeted at people below the age of 12 years. And even with that, advertisers are having a big challenge with us. But our job, as we indicated earlier on, is for health and safety. And now we are talking about non-communicable diseases, and the influx of some of these things is becoming an issue. Again, we have new guidelines on segmenting these juices or these drinks so that if it is sugar sweetened, it stays within its own space. If there are other sweetness, that's also there, and those that do not have sugars at all. So you were talking about the nutrient profiling, which would enable us to do that and make it a requirement on locally produced products as part of their labeling requirements. That is also being done now. I think we've held one meeting already to involve other stakeholders to finalize the document. And very soon there will be nutrient profiling of our products so that you don't just indicate the very minimal things that we presently require, but to go beyond just that, to give more details so our consumers can make some informed choices. So we are targeting it on the line of the labeling guidelines, the nutrient profiling scheme, and then advertisements.
I think that'll be very helpful. My only concern is that I hope we'll be very truthful on what is there. You don't say it's probably 200 calories when it probably is more than that.
That is why the regulator is there. The manufacturer may want to do anything, but the regulator is there for that purpose. And we have our own standards to live by. So it cannot get too
We're very pleased to see that getting to that level where we are profiling the nutrients. All right, let's crack on. There's a question in relation to I think the sugar one has been dealt with. This is exporting value. My organization intend to start selling or export value-added cashew next year. This year we traded in raw cashew nuts, and the cash flow wasn't appealing. What are the required fundamental documents and the processes involved?
Okay.
Do you want to answer that?
Yeah, I think Danny may want to talk nuts, I suppose. So the requirements for nuts in the raw state, or is it roasted? Is it processed?
Let me check. Probably I didn't read what just a minute, please.
They will require different
so raw
for testing.
Raw cashew.
Okay, so I'm sure Danny, if you can get. You
so
may not have everything.
Yes.
In your attempt.
So as I said earlier in my presentation, they would definitely require a certificate of analysis from either of the testing agencies, whether Food Research Institute or the Ghana Standards Authority or any accredited food testing laboratory. And then also they will need a business registration certificate, the samples of the product, and then they will submit to the FDA. Those are the notable documents they need, and aside the cover letter and then the application form that they'll need to complete. All right, thank you.
Okay, I think we've had a lot of. Let me go back to ask some questions again from my side. So let's look at the compliance and enforcement of your work. Okay, so we have maybe goods imported into the country or manufactured into the country, manufactured in the country. How do you monitor these products that have been approved by the FDA when it is in the market? How do you do that? Please, did you hear me? Or you missed my question?
Yeah, sure. I heard you. So I mentioned that we conduct market surveillance activities on a daily basis. So we have very big teams here in Accra and across the country. Each regional office has teams. We even have national service people that work with that outfit as well. And their role is to go to the warehouses, to the storage facilities, to the manufacturing firms, as well as the regular markets, the supermarkets, the neighborhood shops. And there's a reason why our vehicles are not branded. FDA doesn't have branded vehicles, so that when we are coming, people say here they are. Our work is mainly intelligence based. So these people visit the shops. Sometimes they even buy the items for testing. So we do the market surveillance activities to make sure that the products that we approve are actually going through the same strict regimes in their production processes. And what gets to the market or the ultimate consumer is as safe and of good quality as the ones that are brought here for approval. And that's how we are able to tell what is happening on the market and be able to issue the necessary releases and recall notices when the need arises. I think the last recall we did, we've been doing quite a number in pharmaceuticals and in food. And I can remember a few of them, the wines that we had to recall lately. Veterinary drugs, I think the last one was on some dog foods that we had to recall. Again, our market surveillance work goes beyond just the local markets. There are we are on networks like the InfoSan and others, the International Food Safety Networks. So on a daily basis, when a product is recalled in Belgium, we hear of it and we check our markets if that product has made its way here, maybe on our blind side or something. So that's how we are able to triangulate and get information to be able to safeguard public health.
Thank you. But despite doing market surveillance, we often hear that there are counterfeits of products in the particular shop. You go and buy a malaria drug, it doesn't seem to cure malaria after having taken it for 7 days, or probably if it's prescribed for 3 days. So, and I think it's very common. It's very common. And
yeah, it's actually a global problem. It's not just a Ghana thing. Substandard and falsified medicine, it's a global menace. I don't have the statistics readily available. When you go on WHO platforms, you get to know that there are huge supply chains that it's very difficult to deal with them, especially for some of us who have very porous borders around us as a country. So what we have done has been a two-pronged approach. We educate the public about what to look out for when they are buying their medicines, just so they protect themselves and their families from these substandard products. We say substandard and falsified because these are two categories. Substandard when they do not meet the required pharmacopoeia requirements, and fake when it is actually not containing the key constituents that they're supposed to have at all. Now, as I mentioned, we do this through public education. We tell people when you're buying medicine, maybe it's a type of medicine that you are on already, you know the price already. When you go to the market and you find the same product selling at a far cheaper price than the regular price, you just know that there is something wrong and it cannot go at this price anymore. It's an indication. When you buy the drug and the packaging looks so worn out, the date lines and other details on it have been tampered with, You just know that something is wrong and you don't need to get this. And I'm saying this because we will do our very best at the borders and through our regulatory work, but for things that would slip through, the aim of every regulator is to come to a place where its consumers are doing their own self-regulation as well. So we empower them with information and knowledge to do that. And then our enforcement, as I said, every now and then we are picking people up. Our surveillance activities are giving us intelligence notes that we pursue. So we we also do our own sports swoops that we do. Yeah, we do our own swoops. I think the last swoop was just a month ago where we were in Ashaiman and other places just to pick people up. But really, those are not the people we are looking at. They are just retailers. So we would rather want to use them to do further investigations to get the real big boys that are behind these trade. But just to say that it is not just a national thing, it is a real pandemic or menace that the world is grappling with now.
So if you find that the product is substandard, do you seize the product or what do you do?
Yeah, we just seize them, and that's what we do. We go on to trace the warehouse where this retailer might have picked it from, the bulk person, and who this bulk person is dealing with. And that's how I don't think you want me to divulge our intelligence activities, but it's a big thing.
I think it's a major concern.
Yeah, but you need to report. So we have what we call the Med Safety app. We now have an app that you can find. Maybe for our listeners, they can just go to their Play Store or Apple and just download the Med Safety app.
Maybe Daniel can just type it so that people
that there. Yes, exactly. So it's one of the avenues we are using to monitor the safety of our product. And all you need to do is to key in this product, the name of it, and what your complaint really is. And it is not just to report on the maybe it is maybe a substandard product or something alone. But if you also experience any adverse reaction after taking that medication, we are interested, because sometimes it may be a good product which has been registered all right, but there are some indications that are coming up. So we always say that there's no medicine that is 100% safe. There are some that come, or medicines come with side effects. But before they are approved or made to come to trade, we weigh the options, the effects, and its ability to be able to take care of that ailment. So there are times that even after clinical trials are conducted on drugs, there are still some adverse reactions that come through, which the manufacturer may not be aware of. And through these feedbacks from the MedCity app and others, in fact, it's a device or an app that is used globally. It's not just for us. So the moment you download, you have to select Ghana so that we will be able to be the repository of that information. And that's how regulators also do our work across.
But is it possible that I would type a code on the application and it will not exist on the application?
How do you mean, please? Just say that.
I'm trying to find out whether that product is genuine, but it is unknown to the system.
Oh, no, it's not possible.
It's not possible.
No, all medications that are registered will be found there. It may not even be found in the Ghanaian market. But then, as I mentioned, it's a global system. So you will definitely find the medicine. In fact, you are also to do that. You need that app because we have a way of our news feed. So our regular news also comes through that app. And then if you also want to know what is being said, the reviews that are coming up with a certain medicine, maybe not for you, but for a relation who is on a particular diabetic drug or something, you want to know the kinds of reviews that are, or new studies that are coming about that drug, it's your go-to place. So the MedCity app is one app that must be on your phone, in addition to all your other applications on your phone. Everyone needs the MedCity app to stay abreast with medications and other products.
So apart from probably seizing the product, What other measures coercive measures do you melt out to these corporates?
Yeah, sure. So we actually apart from seizing that product, we prosecute offenders. Our law gives us that mandate to prosecute offenses, and there are many forms. One of them is for us to be able to slap administrative charges or fines, administrative fines on them. There is a whole regime that comes with the fees and charges LI. Apart from that, we also have prosecution the bits about the administrative fines. The mere fact that we are calling your product and letting people know that it is not good for you is bad press already. And that is naming and shaming, which sometimes it will take you many more years to restore your brand or your product. And so sometimes we are careful. We much as want to encourage trade and businesses, we are just careful in coming all out about it. And as long as you are able to come along with us by way of fines and other processes to bring you into compliance. So we don't just slap the fines. After we have collected our charges, we'll bring you into compliance for whatever a CAPA or defects we have with you. We'll get you to resolve it. Not only that, even when we find them being advertised, the people who are advertising can also find themselves in trouble. So we've had a number of celebrities who have gone to endorse products that are not FDA approved, and we've had to sanction them as well. So that's how we have gone about our work as regulators.
But do we have data of companies or products that have been recalled or those who have been sanctioned by the FDA? Today is 25th of June. Do you have any such data, just for us to know? Is there anything like that?
Yeah, sure. So as I mentioned, we don't want to frustrate trade. So there is a way we go about our work, but a few of them you can find available. For example, last year when oxytocins were failing, a number of oxytocins were failing the tests. And oxytocin, for those of you who know, it helps with childbirth. And can you imagine a woman in labor and they inject her with oxytocin and it doesn't just get the placenta expelling and all? So it was that dangerous, and we needed to actually publish the name of the products, the manufacturer or the importer of the products, and the places where we found them when we did the test. So that was done, I think, sometime last year. A whole publication came out on businesses that were engaged in oxytocin production and had gotten their products failing. So I know of that. Again, on our website, you will find what we call the Dear Health Professional portal. So there's a place for healthcare professionals. Anytime pharmaceutical products are found to be defective or are failing tests, that is an avenue we also use. But in addition to that, we also share it on other platforms and the database we have in corresponding with our pharmacists and the bulk importers of these products, as well as the manufacturers of the local pharmaceutical products. So that is how we choose to name and shame businesses that do not come into proper compliance with us.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Sometimes when we are aware of these enforcement, it also serves as a deterrence to others. And so I know it's a balanced exercise, but I must be able to know what's happening so that people don't take advantage of pecuniary penalties at the expense of our lives.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's the reason why I'm asking that. Thanks for that. Let me know whether Nathaniel is back. Nat, are you on the call? I'm not sure he's back. Let me say chat box. Few questions. Okay, so does the FDA have a overlapping or conflicting mandate with the Ghana Standards Board? If not, how are these compliance requirements differentiated for business and stakeholders to avoid duplicity?
Okay, so that's a good question. Harmonization is actually the name of the game now in regulation. So I mentioned the fact that we presently, FDA has been conferred the accreditation of being one of the centers of excellence as far as our regulatory work is concerned. Under the AFTAC program and then other the offices of other initiatives that we have around, regulatory bodies, at least I can speak for Africa, are coming into a harmonized standards for or requirements for registration and facility licenses. And so presently, for instance, if you have a product that is approved by FDA, and this product is moving to, say, Nigeria, it will be admitted once the FDA's approval is there, that product can safely enter because NAFDAC has that assurances from FDA. NAFDAC is just our counterpart body in Nigeria. And so they would just approve it. In the same way, products that are coming from Nigeria to Ghana, in as long as they have NAFDAC approval, they just come in. If it's going to maybe Ivory Coast or Burkina, all they require is to perhaps change the labeling to make sure it's in French. But then once it's FDA approved, the regulator there is going to allow it to enter. So there are harmonized standards in place to facilitate trade so that people don't just get back down, moving from state or country to country, going through the same regulatory processes to get clearances and approvals for their wares. So we keep saying it's FDA is a maturity level 3 institution now, and our products can go anywhere around the world. Our laboratory I mentioned, it's a WHO pre-qualified laboratory. If FDA's laboratory certifies your product as good, it's as good for any market. And to the extent that there are products or medicines that are brought in by UN agencies just for approvals to be able to move them to other parts of the continent. So that's how well positioned the FDA is as far as our approval processes are concerned. And the harmonization processes are also very much in place.
Okay, thank you very much. You talked about some initiatives. Someone wants to know, how do we differentiate Buy Ghana, Love Ghana campaign from the Proudly Made Ghana labels on some products? How do we differentiate that?
Okay, so FDA, we are not under the Ministry of Trade. We, as our law stands, we are not into trade. So what we are doing is more of a facilitation role. That initiative was to throw some support behind government's industrialization agenda. So we do not have a label saying that this is Buy Ghana, Love Ghana label, not at all. The Proudly Ghana label is what we know of. But our work is to ensure that small businesses, medium businesses that are coming through FDA for approvals are treated in a way that they receive the necessary support, not just through the process of approvals, but also to be able to make their way to trade. And we use the pathway of the progressive licensing scheme, which Esther talked about. So progressive because it's a ladder, it's a 3-step ladder. We do not expect the little shuttle producer to, let's say, have its full complement of a factory setting to be able to get their shuttle or their gari or cereals approved by FDA. So with that staggered registration process, there are key or very basic requirements that we expect any small or cottage business to be able to comply with. It can even be in your kitchen. You may just be producing in your kitchen or a little garage in your house. There is a way you can set things up, your process flow and everything, your storage, your everything that you need to get done to be able to, I think Benjamin is a HACCP person and we understand what I'm trying to refer to. So we scale down all the HACCP requirements to the very minimum, which if a business is able to comply with, they get the first level of approval, which is green. Then after a year, we set in place your assessments program. And then after a year, we come back to assess you again. If you're able to comply and get, so the first level is for you to get a minimum of 40% of the score, and then you get FDA's approval with the green label. You move on to the amber stage, as I mentioned, a year on, if you're able to comply. And then ultimately you are let out. I'm sorry, the first stage is the pink. The second stage is the yellow. And then the last stage is the green, where you are left off to now come in, as it were, compete with the big players. So that is an initiative that the Buy Ghana, Love Ghana process is going through. In as long as you are a little business who is trying to put together things, the regulator won't want to stand in your way and provide hurdles for you to surmount at all. But then we provide the enabling environment for you to, in a very staggered way, come into compliance. So that's what the Buy Ghana, Love Ghana is all about.
Okay, thank you, Madam Rhoda. So my next set of questions will border on how we can enhance international trade. And as you're aware, we have a lot of, we are members of certain blocks. So we have OAS, we have AU, recently we have the AFTA, and all these have their own standardization and directives in terms of products, and most of these are to eliminate custom borders, custom barriers and stuff like that. So how do you ensure that the products that we are exporting to this country, these blocks, are conforming to the standards of these blocks as well?
Yeah. So I talked about the harmonization process, that having gone through FDA's approval processes, we do not expect this same fruit juice or this same cereal to go through that whole process when it gets into the markets of Ethiopia or to South Africa or whatever. So there are regional platforms that we have harmonized our requirements in sync with each other. So when products move to these different blocks, they are not required to go through that same process of certification. That's not what happens, because it has already been, it has already gone through that kind of regime in FDA already. So that is actually what we are looking forward to. As I indicated at the beginning, much as we are mandated to look out for the safety, quality, and efficacy of these products, trade facilitation is another eye that we are using to ensure that at least things are done in a very effective way. So the harmonization of standards is what we are looking forward to do. And I think sometime last year, we were in Egypt to sign a pact with all the WHO level 3 regulatory bodies that were in Africa to sign a pact such that even if there are certain areas that FDA may not have set in place the requirement for, by way of peer review, we are able to pick learnings from other regulatory environments and include them in our work, so that they do not have to, those products that are approved by FDA do not need to go through the same rigorous processes anymore when they have to enter those markets. So that's how we have sought to approach trade. And I think AFTA has been very much closely related.
Do you have a regional FDA or some sort, like a regional FDA? Do you have anything like that?
Yes. So that's what we call the WAHO, the West Africa Health Organization. So it's made up of all the West Africa regulators. We also have the AUDA, the Africa Union Development Agency. Within that, we also have the Africa.
And they play the role as like food regulating food. drugs?
So they regulate. So for example, Nigeria NAFDAC is a member of WAHU. They regulate food, they regulate drug.
Okay.
Ethiopia's SAFRA, which is in Nigeria, South Africa, Bumra in Botswana. I can't finish mentioning all of them. All of them.
I will look into that.
Yes.
And that's quite a positive step to have a regional block. I mean, trying to promote standards in that regard.
Yeah.
We are about wrapping up. So let me ask some 2 questions then.
Okay.
So my last part, probably 2 questions. Just want to find out from you. I mean, you have been separated from standards board for probably, if I recall, more than 15 years, if I recall.
Yeah.
What are your challenges that you face in the regulatory space?
Well, yes, we have been separated from GSA, and we did that. I think the law at the time did that, and our job is to enforce the standards that Ghana Standards Authority sets in place. Sometimes people want to know what relationship we have FDA has with GSA, and that is what it is. So we enforce the standards that are put in place by the Standards Authority, as far as it has to do with food, drugs, cosmetics, and the other regulated products. We, as a regulator, we have enjoyed a lot of support from government, from development partners, and others. Perhaps we would want our clients to be able to comply, to know and also comply with the requirements for registration and going through the processes. We are not enthused when we have to close down businesses because they are not complying or recall their products on the markets because they are failing. So compliance. And we have our support desk in place. I think FDA, we are very much approachable. We can be contacted anywhere, social media, phone, WhatsApp, and all. And we think that relationship is what will keep us going. And as long as we know that the typical business person is not out there to just flout the laws, but they may not be aware of it. So we try to send out so much, but we are approachable and very nice people. We want people to come along with us when they are not sure of anything, and then be able to do what is required of us. If you need your reports, your things like the cashew man, I think in addition to what Danny mentioned, there is what we call the phytosanitary reports that you need for cereals, which you need to put together when you are sending things out. We don't want your things to go and then they turn you down, asking you to come back because everything you sent is full of aflatoxins and they cannot use them. So make sure you are compliant, and your business will do well within the country and even outside the country. We hear of palm oil failing because they won't go through the processes properly. Yams, I mean, you don't do that. The regulator is there to assist you, and there's no point in trying to circumvent the process because it will catch up with you on the other end.
Okay, that sounds a good advice. Very good advice. Okay, one more question for my end, and we are off here.
All right.
So, what advice would you give to any startup business who's seeking to probably register a product or import a product from outside, whether it's drug, or what advice would you give them?
Yeah. So we want to say that FDA has a very big door open to small businesses. We know that the small and medium scale businesses constitute about 80% of our GDP. I mean, they may be small, but they are counting so much. They count as far as the macroeconomy is concerned. And that's why we have in place the progressive licensing scheme. We had to be intentional about this because there was a perception that FDA is just out for the big players and the big manufacturers. But the small shuttle producer is also producing for people to consume. That small sobolo or juices person who is selling after church service is feeding people and want to make sure they are not going home sick. So our progressive licensing scheme is in place for them to be able to approach us, and then we come along with them gradual. It's a gradual progressive. So it's a gradual process of licensing you and bringing you into full compliance. So they don't need to be afraid at all. The progressive licensing scheme is one avenue that they can come to and get themselves properly ready. Remember, without FDA's approval, there's no way you can send your products to any supermarkets to sell. You cannot even export. And we don't want to make it difficult at all. That's why this system is in place. So if you are bringing in food, drugs, cosmetics, please approach us and let's show you what the requirements are so you can have a smooth sale in your transactions. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Madam Rhoda. We also have Daniel. You went quiet, Daniel and Esther.
Yes.
You gave us a good presentation. You went quiet, but it's all good. Your head of department. Some will say the fabulous Mrs. Rhoda Pierre has done the good work. So we are very pleased for such an insightful and engaging session today. On behalf of the council members of the UKGCC, on behalf of Ajoba, who's the executive director, the production team, which is Joycelyn, Shige, and the team from WTS Nobis Fields, which is Rosemary Anakwa. We also have Shika Enum. We also have Womina Jana Bachman. They have been supporting me in this session. Thank you very much for your help. So on behalf of the team, we want to thank you. And I'm sure when we call you next time, you'll be there to share such an insightful conversation with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And we look forward to further discussions and collaborations.
And have a good day. So I'll be looking forward to receiving the slides by popular request.
Okay.
So thank you very much and have a great day.
Thank you. It has been a pleasure. Bye-bye.